Hello there, Qckslvrslash, and today I have a video for you courtesy of one of my subscribers, Thepurplesmurf, and they're driving their Tier 10 American destroyer, the Gearing, on Trap in Domination mode. And I have to say, Trap has probably produced some of my more interesting matches as far as how close the battles are and just entertaining. They always seem to go down to the wire. And I think it's because of the islands around B and how the map is kind of divided up. Often you'll get a team pushed to one point and the other goes to the other. So like say, Purplesmurf's team's going to C, they'll run into a couple ships, wipe them out. The guys going into A, they may get wiped out. And then it just takes some time for both teams to close and really the main fleets to engage, and you'll see just one ship here and there get picked off, and there always seems to be a chance for both teams right down to the wire. I know definitely my closest game ever was on this map, and it came down to 1 point, which absolutely ridiculous. And it was basically the game was ticking down, and wherever the game ended, if it was 1 second later, they would have got the next tick. It was 1 second earlier, so we did. So you see Thepurplesmurf doing what a lot of good destroyer captains do off the bat, and that is providing smoke for his friendly battleships, breaking up any lines of sight to that enemy team, and continuing out to do the spotting. Unfortunately, this relies on one thing, and that is for your friendly battleships to realize that you've just provided a smoke for them and actually use it. Now granted, right now, there is radar in play, but the radar only lasts 20 to 30 seconds, depending on whether it's the Donskoy or the Baltimore, both of which would be in radar range right now. But if you watch Thepurplesmurf's battleships, they are just storming right on past any cover that smoke could have provided. And I suspect part of the reason why is they see a bunch of cruisers. That's really all the enemy team that's spotted, so I think they figure they can charge out and get a lot of damage on comparatively thinly armored targets. See the Donskoy there coming under fire from the Frederick the Great's secondaries, and he's paying for it. Already below half health. Some focus fire on him will probably have that Donskoy dead in a hurry, and rightfully so, and that's what you have to do. I'd still say though, had Thepurplesmurf's friendly battleships actually gone into smoke, they'd probably be in a better situation as well, because there's not a lot of destroyers in this game, and they're both spotted down in the south, so you're not as worried about massive spread of torpedoes coming in. Smurf gets a fire on the Donskoy, and those secondaries continue to pelt him, and Frederick the Great ends up finishing him off. And that's really good, because that is one radar ship that is gone. And when you're in team battles and stuff, the targets of priority are the destroyers, and then the radar ships. Every time. And then the battleships. So when teams play that way, you can imagine how useful it is in random battles when you wipe out something that potentially gives vision of entire teams. Now this map's a little more spread out, so it may not work out that way, but definitely a plus for the Thepurplesmurf, who's in a destroyer, and their lives can get ended by a well-timed radar. Got some inbound torpedoes there. I'm guessing those were the Hindenburgs, though I can't say for sure where they came from. Oh, wow. Well, there's a dunce move by someone who just wasn't paying attention. That Frederick the Grosse ran himself aground. Those are mistakes that you might expect at Tier 5, but for a Tier 10, to drive into the ground like that is unacceptable. And you see Smurf tried to give him some cover and help him out. He wasn't quite in the right position to do so, but he did everything he could to try to save that battleship. And overall, looking at the health lost, I think Smurf's team is losing this engagement. They're down one battleship compared to one cruiser, and looking at all the other battleships on the enemy team, I'd say Smurf's battleships have taken a harder beating as well, particularly that one battleship right in front of them. It's just taken an absolute beating, and he's turned in, trying to maximize his armor against this Qckslvrslash, but I don't think that's the right play. And Smurf just got a torp, I'm guessing, on one of the battleships back there, maybe the Yamato that he threw the torps at. Can't really tell because they're no longer spotted. And he's going back to using lots of guns and stealth firing. And pretty effectively. Got another fire, building up some damage, and you love situations like this when you're in these top tier destroyers with concealment, when it's just one ship, because you can much more easily maintain your distance from one battleship than you could from, you know, a fleet of cruisers. Unfortunately for Smurf, he's got a friendly battleship right behind him, so he can't turn out. So I'd say he does the next best thing, kind of turns in to 180, and I'm guessing closed for torpedo range. Here they come, he's just taking a look. And in the end, looks like he decides not to throw the torpedoes, and a good thing, they would have been a waste, and he picks up the kill anyways. Meanwhile, his team down at A has done really well, pushed through, gotten a couple kills on the enemy ships. The enemies pushed into B and have a 2-on-1 against one of his friendly cruisers, and Charlie is under threat of capture from an enemy Baltimore. Now, fortunately for Smurf, he does have a friendly rune, and a rune versus Baltimore, this kind of range, I'd say the rune has an advantage. Despite his guns being in the rear, he does have those torpedoes, and the Baltimore can't come back with anything like that. So if that rune just gets into position, puts some torps in the water, he could really wreck havoc. And Smurf is certainly doing a fair share of his own damage, lit a fire which the Baltimore put out, and just continues peppering him with HE shells. Not getting a lot of damage out of them, it doesn't look like, but it's still a harassed fire, and there's another fire. Which pretty much at this point means that Baltimore is dead one way or the other. He's more than likely to burn down with the fire he's taking, and friendly Frederick the Great finishes him off, but the rune gets killed as well. And that is unfortunate. The Yamato clearly put a good shot into him. And things aren't looking too good for Thepurplesmurf's team. The enemies have won at B, they're capping it out. A big chunk of his fleet's down at A, but they're gonna get C here. That Yamato is on full health, he's got a Hindenburg with him. Up to the north are another, well, pair of ships, an Iowa, and I believe it's a second Iowa, we'll see when it comes into view. And they just finished off one of Smurf's Tier 9 compatriots, leaving just this other Frederick the Grosse to fight, and he is not going to last too long. And the second he dies, Smurf's spotting is gone too. And that is going to prove troublesome, though these torpedoes are looking like they could connect with this Hindenburg. He's definitely seen them, still going to eat one of them. Really good torp, gets the flood. So at that point, you know the Hindenburg has burnt their cooldown. You can see the damage racking up, and it's now that he's got to do some running. You want to stay in the smoke as long as you can, putting effective fire out, but you can't risk getting run down. And he definitely would have had he waited. Now, fortunately for him, he's got a big island just to his south here to break contact with this cruiser who I can guarantee is going to be chasing for him. The Yamato is chasing, there's a pair of Iowas, and his team's now down on the caps and on kills. the fleet out to the west is spread out, and that never works out for a team. They pushed around. If I were them, I would have cut straight in, gone for B, tried to consolidate themselves. Instead, they're kind of spread all over, which means they can't support one another. And when you can't help your friends, you're all going to start paying pretty quickly in this game. The one good thing that Smurf has going for him is his team is currently up 503 points to 279 due to those really early caps. He's got 1 kill and he's already done 118,000 damage. I haven't even been paying attention to the damage done. So he's definitely done his fair share of work, and hopefully it pays off. You'd hate to see someone in a situation like this do a good chunk of damage. 118,000 damage is respectful, and to end up losing. And everyone's been in that place where they've felt they did everything they could and it still wasn't enough. So Thepurplesmurf is gonna have his work cut out for him here if his team is going to win. It's currently 6-on-6. He gets a torp into, I'm guessing, the Yamato, another one right there, and some more good damage, but looking at the top, the floods were instantly repaired, and he's got a Hindenburg chasing him. And there's nothing worse than being in a destroyer actively being pursued. It just prevents you from making the kind of moves you want to make to get into the action. And the Hindenburg turns off there, which I kind of disagree with. I think had he continued chasing south, Thepurplesmurf would have just been forced to run. He wouldn't have had the opportunity to cut in like he is now. And I'd say that's a definite misplay by the Hindenburg, but at the same time, his team is starting to leave, and I feel he didn't want to get caught all alone. Smurf's team has pushed into Bravo, captured it, but I wish I could see up here just north of B, because I can guarantee you those ships are going to get obliterated. You can see his friendly cruiser just from the map is going astern, and that's a pair of Iowas and Yamato. There's an enemy destroyer up there, and the pair of Hindenburgs kind of have Smurf pushed out to the south, and he can't really cut up to get good fire in at that Yamato as far as torps go. And one kind of really odd thing, or good thing, about the gearing is visual detection is pretty much the exact same as your maximum torp range. So if you can see something, your torps can hit it, and that is a big advantage of the gearing over the Fletchers, those 16.5 kilometer torps. And they are quick little buggers that don't get spotted too easily. And here you see Smurf making more good use of that visual range, or well, gunfire range versus detection range, working on this Hindenburg. Unfortunately, not hitting, but I'm sure he'll make the corrections and start to hit this Hindenburg consy and hopefully get a quick fire. That's really what you always want when you're in a destroyer, is if your first volley or two can light a fire, you're feeling pretty good about things. Unfortunately, 10 shells in, no fire. There's the first chunk of damage he's gotten off this volley. He's definitely got that Hindenburg a little more dialed in, and there's the fire. So now that Hindenburg's got to choose to use the damage control or let Smurf pick up some more damage. And Smurf already has Witherer, which I guess with the number of 10 fires, 4 floods, you're going to pick that up pretty quickly, and 152,000 damage, but I'd say things are looking a little dire for his team. Somehow this cruiser and battleship have held on, but I don't suspect they're long for the world. There goes the Moskva, which means his friendly battleship, which would be another Montana. He's running, he's got a destroyer up there, and this is where things are gonna start to get interesting. You can see Smurf continue to work on that Hindenburg, and his team is charging in, and there goes one Montana, leaving just a Moskva and his other Montana versus 4 enemies. He's trying to work down this Hindenburg, and he's getting some good hits, continuing to stack damage on, and just trying to slow down the other team. When you start to fall behind on ships like this, you really have 2 plays. You either have to make an aggressive move to try to knock out a couple players before the enemy team can group up, or you just hope that your point lead is enough. And a 200-point lead is pretty decent, and they've got the caps. So I agree with what Thepurplesmurf is doing, and it's now him versus 4 players. They're starting to take Bravo away. He's got a mild lead, and thankfully only 1 ship to worry about, who can't do a thing about him, just having to accept that he's getting shot at. Smurf finally connects there, gets a fire, and this one should burn because I believe the Hindenburg already put one out, although his damage control looked like it was already back up. So now you kind of just have to hope, well, at least Smurf's probably hoping, that he can light another fire here before he disappears behind this edge of land, because if he can, that'll be some more damage that just ticks up and burns. And there it is. Smurf pulls away, gets out of visual detection range again, just 9.8. There it is. And he's got a tricky decision to make here. Do you come charging around this point up on his right, hoping you can surprise that enemy, I believe it was the Yamato that was there, or do you double back and try to go capture C to continue to build more points? And it's certainly not a decision that I enjoy having to make. Often I go for the aggressive move, and a little unsure of what Smurf is deciding. He's definitely putting the torps out, which you do either way. And unfortunately for him, he gets spotted by a Yamato 5.8 kilometers out. The shells come in. Ooh, that's about half his remaining hit points, but the torpedoes he launched blind are looking pretty good. This could be a massive kill if he manages to connect them, because, well, that Yamato is probably the trickiest ship to have to deal with, just due to his hit points and all those secondaries. He gets 2 torps, 3rd torp, and there's the kill. 208,000 damage now, and that just gives him more of a buffer. And at this point, you know he's just gonna go for Charlie. That's the move I think anyone would make at this point. It's most likely the furthest from the last place an enemy was seen. You can't guarantee it though, so you definitely want to keep your range, because this Hindenburg may be working his way down here, trying to get a spot, and you never know where these enemy ships have gone. He's still got a lead, and this is the point, in my games at least too, that I start doing the math. They've got 2 points, he's got 1. So in the time he'll get 180 points, the enemy team will get 360. Now, is 360 enough for the enemy team to win? Yes, which makes it all the closer. But only 30 seconds left. Easy choice to run away. And I'd say he's rather lucky that the time is running out as it is. I think he could have gotten away either way. Even if he didn't manage to kill that Yamato, he probably still could have hung on from the win and just opened the range. But the game is going to end, and to the victor goes the spoils. And what a performance, and tier 10 nonetheless to get that solo warrior medal in, and it's something I still haven't managed. And part of it just comes down to the setup, but also the play. Purple Smurf kept a solid head on his shoulders. He didn't go charging in anytime unnecessarily. He put torpedoes into the right place. He used his concealment to stack up the damage, and all told, 208,000 damage, 315,000 credits, 5,000 experience, and held on for the victory. I can guarantee you he's probably got a couple teammates who are thanking him for doing that. Because while some of them probably didn't have the best games, like that guy who ran aground a beam to a whole bunch of enemy battleships, most seemed to have a pretty good go at it. And he tops out his team, 2,500 experience, and you can see a couple other ships that definitely did their fair share of work, but it's Smurf that came through with the victory, and it doesn't matter how many ships are left at the end of it, it's whoever wins the game. Purple Smurf managed to do a stack of damage against a number of targets, 63,000 to that Yamato with those torps, and he harassed that Yamato for a long time before that. A good chunk of damage to that Qckslvrslash, all with just HE rounds. I don't recall him actually putting a torpedo into him at all. He harassed that Hindenburg using basically superior gameplay, I'd say. He kept himself at range, preventing the Hindenburg from being able to do anything. And even though he doesn't run a premium account, he still walked away with 101,000 credits and a slew of experience for his captain. A really well played game. Thank you for sharing this with me, Purple Smurf. I loved watching it, and it's just great to get to see a solo warrior, especially at tier 10. If you guys enjoyed this, considering giving a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel. Both help me out. If you have replays of your own, send them to me at Qckslvrslash@gmail.com. It's in my channel description. I'm also going to put it down below so you all know where you can send your own replays. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you guys later.